Good afternoon, a good morning, and a good evening, whenever you are watching this live masterclass. Obviously, I'm gonna do a quick um, tech check just to make sure that we are live, because I'm coming to you slightly a bit earlier than normal. And obviously, this is now gonna be the oh gosh, I can't get my words out. This is going to be the time slot for every masterclass, every live session, every live training from here on out. Obviously, we're moving from the Wednesday at 4 p.m. UK time to now the Tuesday at 4 p.m. And obviously, for those in the US, let me know in the comments if you want me to send you a link where it will give you the time difference on an app, and that obviously will be make it a lot simpler for you to be able to work out the time difference, and also to be able to accommodate obviously changes in time zone, and also what's it called, daylight savings time. Obviously with the US, I'm probably not going to do it anyway. So you know the difference between your time zone and me going live, so you don't miss out on any of the information and be able to ask me a question in person and directly. Yeah, I can see that we're live. Obviously, I can see one person is with me, so come and say hello. Come put hashtag live if you're watching on the live, and if you're watching on the replay, as I assume most of you will be, don't forget to put hashtag replay. So in today's training, without further ado, obviously I'm going to talk about how to predict and plan despite lots of stress, stop yo-yoing once and for all, and obviously to build on what I spoke about last week. If you haven't seen that, obviously go and watch that training as well. It's amazing. To build on how to stop the "what the fuck am I doing today" syndrome. So obviously this is going to cover mindset, exercise / training, and also to do around diet and nutrition, because it's going to be applicable to all three. So this training has come about because of a conversation I had yesterday with a fellow amputee that was struggling with her nutrition. Would go from one extreme to the other. So would obviously gorge, binge, however you want to term it, to go into the other extreme to I need to get my weight under control. And obviously with this training, that's going to obviously help that individual and everybody that's got that issue today. So I'm going to share my screen without further ado. So I want that one. See if I've done it right this week. Let it catch up. Yep, so that's that. Let me move myself out the way so I can present it for you. Let me know in the comments if you can see it with a yes. And obviously I can see it, just to let me know that you can see it. So obviously we're going to go over what I talked about in the introduction, so you can see it loud and clear, and it's crystal clear. Obviously how to predict and plan despite stress. So this is applicable to I think going forward as well, with the uncertainty of financial aspects of things and things that you potentially can't control as much as you'd like to do. Obviously stop yo-yoing once and for all, and how to stop the "what the fuck am I doing today" syndrome, and many more. So I'm gonna go to my next slide. So from a mindset perspective, you have two points of thought when it comes to consciousness. So obviously what we're doing right now is consciousness. The other one is obviously subconscious, or what you can't control. So if we looked at it from a goal perspective versus a growth perspective, obviously most people would form in the former of the goal consciousness. It's all about the results, and obviously it's not about the journey or the process. Obviously, I'm generalizing. If you fall into the growth mindset, I'll call it growth mindset, growth consciousness, or growth mindset. Put that in the comments if you feel that you are goal conscious. Put that in the comments because that obviously helps me to be able to distinguish where people are at. So when we look at obviously goal focused or result orientated, the focus is obviously on the destination. It's on the result, the outcome. You're motivated by something that's external, and obviously it motivates you and others. So that's why if you have a goal or have a goal setting in place, it's a lot easier to be able to track it and to be able to hit milestones along the way because you can see that, okay, we'll use the example of 50 pound weight loss. If I had a milestone goal of losing 10 pound every month and a half, approximately, I'm going to obviously hit my end result of 50 pounds because I'm hitting little milestones along the way. So little goals along the way. Obviously, it's very short term in terms of thinking. It's very, how would I describe it? It's very, oh, the word is eluding me. It's going to irritate me that. The fact that obviously it is very results driven, it's not sustainable. There we go. I've got the word out that I wanted to do. So obviously the difference, obviously seasonal versus lifelong. One is unsustainable, and the other one is should be. It's not set in stone. Obviously, lifelong. It should be obviously sustainable. It challenges you because it's a goal, but, and this is a big but, you stop with the goal when it is reached. And obviously, when people say, when it comes to weight loss in particular, what I struggle with is the dieting and the weight loss. That's not actually true. The thing that you have struggled with to be able to accomplish is maintenance. And okay, that isn't your fault listening and watching this because obviously my industry doesn't want you to be able to maintain because then it can't make money. So if you obviously hit your results, you go on a vacation or you go on a holiday, as is the case now. Obviously, Britain, obviously the kids are going back to school as last week or today. Obviously, the US has been for a couple of weeks, but be it your goal was to get to a certain point before the school holidays or before a special occasion, be it a wedding, etc. You reach that goal, you go back to what you were doing previously, so you're reverting back to type. Obviously, you do undo some of the work that you've done because you haven't had the ability to track what you've been doing throughout that period of time. So thus, when you stop and you go back to what you were eating previously, and this is the same if you were to put insert mindset instead of nutrition or diet, and the same with exercise, you would start back at the beginning. Does that make sense? You wait for growth to come, which is probably a big no-no because obviously you can't expect. It's almost like wishful thinking to a certain extent of hope. You're hoping for the result to come. You're hoping for the growth to become, and obviously there's a lack of self-belief and self-confidence there because because of past failures, you maybe have lost that ability to have the self-belief or self-confidence to back it. to back the goal beyond that. So you expect the growth to happen after you've done the work. Whereas, obviously, the alternative, and I'm going to cover the growth in a second, you only learn from mistakes. So you learn after the fact of doing it. I probably would disagree with this when it comes to that to a certain extent, but I'll cover that after I've talked about the growth consciousness. You determine it's on luck. You don't give gratitude to hard work. I fall in this category a little bit of, I would probably say, some of my sporting career. Obviously, for new people that don't know that to some extent, obviously, I competed. I shouldn't say obviously. I had the great fortune of competing at a high level in sport, and I put that down to luck. That's not luck. That's a lot of discipline. That's a lot of structure. That's a lot of sacrifice, if you want to call it that, to be able to get my result. So I lost sight of, obviously, the growth consciousness because I glossed over it. I knew that the process had to be done, good or bad or indifferent. And this is obviously something that when I get to speak to younger athletes, I say that you need to stop that. You need to be aware of all three of those, because that's my one regret of I didn't do that. Or that would be one thing I would say, take myself aside, my younger self, and say, you need to a certain extent, revel in all those. If it's good, that's wonderful. Learn something from it. If you're not feeling it, okay, don't get on and grin and bear it. Obviously, look to ask questions, and obviously you would be able to motivate yourself from there on out. And obviously the indifferent is, obviously, you need to take something from both. Now we come on to the growth mindset, but before I go there, hopefully that's making sense. For the two that are watching live, let me know in the comments that that's making sense, that you're following along and it makes sense. If you've got any questions throughout it, obviously there's no stupid question. Put your hand up virtually and ask that question, how it presents to yourself. If you don't feel, or you're feeling a little bit shy, I'll put it that way, don't hesitate to message me privately if you feel that you're a little bit more self-conscious and don't want other people to know some of your setbacks or challenges that you're facing. Obviously, this is a safe place, but if you don't feel comfortable to share that with other people, by all means, obviously get in touch with me privately and obviously tell me where you're at. So when we come to growth consciousness, it's very focused on the journey. This is probably, I love this quote. Love this quote from Cool Runnings. Peace be the journey. So it's very Rastafarian, I'm thinking, because they're looking to enjoy every ounce of that experience. I think because we live in a very fast-paced world and society, we don't have time to be able to stop, breathe, and reflect and take stock. It's almost go, 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 go. And obviously, I would obviously fall into this trap as well. This is something that I've obviously make more of a conscious effort to not do, because if I can slow myself down and be aware and actually appreciate life for what it is, and be grateful for what I have and not what I haven't got. Obviously, the being able to obtain abundance, and obviously beyond that, is obviously going to be a bit more easy to come by. Growth obviously matures you and others. So another term for growth we could call learning, education. I'm not going to use the word homework, but it's an ability to evolve oneself. So the difference between obviously maturing and motivation is probably a very, very good question. But from my personal opinion, obviously maturation is obviously something mature. I'm choosing to become better. It's not something else that is motivating me to be competitive with or comparative with, and it's not a motivator. It's almost that I want to seek out that information to be able to become a better person, a better human being, but more knowledgeable, or a better all-round individual. Is how I would probably describe it. I've touched upon the lifelong, so something that is sustainable. So if we looked at it from a nutritional one, because generally that would probably be the challenge, is obviously a diet is not sustainable unless it becomes a lifestyle. So if people have done paleo, keto, Ginny Craig, Weight Watchers, Atkins, and obviously I could list off probably hundreds, if not thousands, of examples. If that is not life life changing and sustainable for you, it's not the right thing for you. It might have got somebody else a result, but for whatever reason, it's not a good fit for you. That's okay. So it's looking to do something that is obviously sustainable, long term. You can implement beyond a result. So if your goal was to lose, we'll say £20, it's building in a plan and a structure beyond those £20 and a structure to maintain those £20 of weight loss. Not just losing it every so often because that's the goal. That, if you look rationally, is very irrational. Because why would you want to lose, put it back on, lose it, put it back on? That's not constructive. What we want to do is lose the £20, stay at that same weight, and obviously if you wanted to lose a bit more and you wanted to get a bit more toned, a bit more ripped, obviously that's a different goal. It changes you. So obviously everybody knows growth obviously is going to make you a better individual because you are becoming more knowledgeable around the topics of mindset, nutrition, exercise, training, or following somebody that is a bit more knowledgeable, then you can soak up some of that information. Keeps growing beyond the goal. So back to my point about the maintenance. So obviously that's the key component when it comes to nutrition. Obviously mindset, you always keep growing because the minute you stop is obviously regression. I fell foul of that because I stopped doing things that were working because I felt better, and that wasn't the case. So this is something that it's an evolution of you never stop learning. I think the undoing of this is obviously schooling, but I won't go into that today because obviously that's a very hot topic. But in terms of it's always evolution, and obviously the same is true when it comes to exercise and training. Is muscle overload. Is that's all you're always trying to do is overloading the muscle that it gets the males would know this, of pump, or you're getting a reaction from every time you exercise. It don't have to be major, but you're having some sort of reaction. And I'm not saying no pain, no gain type of reaction. I'm talking that you felt that you've done some sort of work and you've got some sort of benefit, be it from either mood enhancing or you see your muscles are getting bigger from that perspective. The individual takes responsibility for their growth. And what I mean by that is they take responsibility of every aspect of what they do. So these are obviously choices, good, bad, or indifferent. And you don't look to point the finger to other individuals as to why it didn't work or use negative um, self-talk to undermine yourself. So you take it and you take the emotion out of it. You learn before your mistakes. Obviously, this is a bit more difficult, and this is probably, I would say, those are probably interchangeable, because nobody that has been successful has never made a mistake. If they don't, they're liars. They would have made a mistake, minor or major, at some point in their lives. So learning before you make the mistake, obviously you don't hit the heartache of hitting the wall or hitting failure, but you need to have accountability to be able to do that, because to be aware of a mistake before it happens as a person, and you're doing it yourself, self account, it's not possible, because you wouldn't be aware of something working, and the risk of doing it yourself is you're not going to do it in the first place, because this could go wrong, this could go wrong, that could go wrong, and you would go into either a mindset of procrastination, so you didn't get hurt, so you be very idle, lazy, and I'm using very negative words, but obviously that's a definition of what procrastination is. Or you're looking for the perfect ideal situation for that to happen, which neither of those exist. You just would sit idly in stagnation and wouldn't do anything. That's because you were scared to make the mistake in the first place. Obviously, I keep calling it growth mindset. There is obviously a growth mindset, and there's obviously like different. Growth consciousness relies on hard work. The doesn't matter if you're religious, non-religious, Christian, Muslim, Jewish. Some might say it's like a divine intervention, but you still have to do the work. Whether or not you take some of the praise for doing that, ultimately that's down to your belief system. And I'm not going to say one's right or wrong, but there is no luck when it comes to growth. Is because if you do the work, you do the hard yards, you're gonna reap the rewards. I hope that is making sense. Let me know with a growth consciousness in the comments. Now we come to obviously choices, and this is, you can see from the highlighted one, and why is that in the way? Ooh. Let's move that out of the way for you. Won't move. Apologies for Grammarly. We all come into the world the same, naked, scared, and ignorant. After that grand entrance, the life we end up with is simply a accumulation of all the choices we make. Think about it. Everything in your life exists because you first made a choice about something. Choices are at the root of everyone's. Let me read that back. Choices are at the root of every one of your results. Each choice starts a behavior that over time becomes a habit. Choose poorly and you just might find yourself back at the drawing board, and you've made the choice to be. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead. My brain's not working right. It's trying to cheat. Each choice starts a behavior that over time becomes a habit. Choose poorly and you just might find yourself back at the drawing board, forced to make a new, often harder choices. Don't choose at all and you've made the choice to be the passive receiver of whatever comes your way. Every decision, no matter how slight, alters the trajectory of your life. And some people might have seen this video of to showcase this. Obviously, let me come out of this screen share for a second so you can see my hand. So say the choice, the habit, and the behavior is here. Make the wrong choice, however you want to term that, it's not really a good example. Your trajectory would be like that. Say that's flat, or let's use the bottom of the screen. Say the trajectory is flat if you did absolutely nothing. If you make the wrong choice, obviously the trajectory would go to, let's say, the microphone. You make a better choice, obviously the trajectory could be the top of my head. So you can see the difference, be it in the future, could be as big as that. And it could be even bigger or smaller depending on what it is. Let's go back into the, oops, don't want to do that. Don't want to hit the stop the share. So I hope that's making sense. Put a choice in the comments. That making sense. So if I go back to the original post of it, of if you looked at, let's touch upon the next to last bit. Don't choose at all, and you've made the choice to be a passive receiver of whatever comes your way. So the passive receiver would be either a procrastinator or a perfectionist. And obviously what they are choosing to do is obviously not go anywhere, because it has to be either perfect, which doesn't exist. You know, everything has to be aligned, has to be at a certain point in time. I've got to have the right income. I've got to have you're rationalizing an excuse to fit your solution, and obviously you can expect to obviously have some come your way. Generally speaking, you won't go anywhere, and obviously you see everybody around you obviously getting results, and you'd obviously not be very happy about that. When it comes to the procrastinator, which is obviously the same thing but on the other end of the spectrum, would be that they are, I don't want to be too harsh with this, but they are too idle to be able to, they'll use words such as laziness and I'm idle, I can't do to do it. It's at the end of it, it's belief, all of it. It's either the 100% is it's got to be all in, or it's nothing, which is hard, because why is having 10% in the game, 20% in the game, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, up to obviously 90, say 89%, somebody's obviously gonna do something with it, but it's a judgment thing, because you deem it has to be a certain way, and this is obviously mindset when it comes to that. And obviously from the procrastinator's point of view, is they're using language to describe their actions, their choices, their behavior, habits. The person is not idle or lazy. They just choose not to do it. It's half-ass. That isn't the person. Okay, the descriptor of what people probably being described at in the past as those, then they obviously want to revert back to obviously what that is. That's not true. Those are two different inanimate objects. You, the person, are a vessel, and you can probably implement any emotion that you want, any behavior that you want at any given time. A word is a word, and it's whether or not you adopt that word to be you and your beliefs and actions and behaviors and habits. I think the notion of the very beginning of we all come in the world the same, naked, scared, and ignorant. Obviously, we as babies, we don't know any different. As kids, it's probably a good thing that we're ignorant, because we're not scared of anything. Okay. The more that we've obviously got technology, this is a bad thing with the younger kids, because they are getting a little bit more and more scared to take risks. If you think back to the days of you as a child, you took risks. I know I did. I would do things that my friends and able-bodied kids would take for granted. I took risks. This is very health and safety now. Back in the day, but be it would try and accomplish to get on the monkey bars. Okay, that skill now is irrelevant now because it's easy. But back in as a 6-year-old, that was an accomplishment because I couldn't do it in the very early days because of the disability. And I worked a way around to be able to achieve that, to be able to fit in. Same with running up the slide the wrong way. And I had many failures with that. And I've probably put many a hole in jeans to the annoyance of my mother. Obviously, now that is now a trend from a fashion perspective. So if you're an amputee, that's a joke you could give to able-bodied people. I could put holes in your clothes for free and quite easily just fall over. So obviously, if we move on from the story, our choices can be our friend and our worst enemy. So this is probably language I don't like because obviously it's a book. Because if you're demonizing words as good and bad, it's the same with Weight Watchers Slimming World with sins and I can't remember what they call it, something that's relatively healthy. You're making people make conscious decisions, unconscious decisions based on what is good, what is bad. Okay, see, from a religious perspective, there's good and evil, but that's something different. But in terms of mindset and nutrition, there is no good and bad. It's a choice of whether or not you regret it further down the line. Having made it, I don't know, 3 months later, 6 months later, a year down the line, you've made a choice to obviously change. Okay, after the fact, yes, you would maybe want to have done it 3 months earlier, 6 months earlier, a year earlier, but you've got to be able to accept that you didn't. You weren't ready. You potentially didn't want to change. You didn't feel that you had enough going for you to have the momentum. And this is obviously something that obviously I didn't touch upon when it comes between the difference between goals consciousness and growth consciousness is momentum. Because if you can get on the back of momentum, you make progress damn well quickly because it's addictive. It's like, oh wow, this is a result. I'm doing well. I want more of this. So it's momentum, and it's taking the one step approach of one step in front of you, and then obviously you progress. Obviously, each choice is at the root of everyone's results. Is also at the root of everyone's process or the journey, because it's a choice to embark on it. It starts your habits and your behaviors, because by taking action, and we're going to come to this, but at the end shortly, will determine I can't speak, the trajectory of where you're going to get to, how big or how small that curve is. So what my predicate to this is, make a choice. It might be good or bad at that particular moment, but make a choice and just stick with it, and use the momentum to look at how that makes you feel. Because generally speaking, if we take the emotion out of it, and I've said this numerous times, it's pretty black and white. It's yes and no. It's very easy to make decisions. So now, for everybody that's watching, whether or not it be live or on the replay, it's accountability time. Obviously, my clients get this all the time. To be accountable of their goals, their choices, their behaviors, their habits, action. Obviously, I look at all of this. So in the comments, what I would like you to do, and I'll go first. After I come off to set the momentum. Obviously, I'll do it first because obviously this is not easy and it's also good. By obviously setting out your intentions and your actions of what you're gonna do for the coming week. Obviously, with Tuesday as we're doing this, I asked in the group yesterday what was your one takeaway from last week as a result. Obviously, this is now the journey. So what I want to get you to do in the comments and put hashtag action step of what you're going to do for the coming week of what you want to accomplish in the comments. So obviously then you have how many people in the group? 750 other people to be accountable to you. That will obviously challenge you. So my I don't know where I'm going with this. Apologies. So my course of action for you to do is to be accountable and put what your action step is for the week to come, and it could be as small or as big you want it to be, and obviously we'll give you praise and taking that initiative to take that first port of call. So is that the last slide? I think it is. Yep. So stop the share. So I'm gonna move that out of the way because it's annoying me. I'm gonna go over what obviously we discussed today. So what we touched upon was how to predict and plan despite lots of stress. Stop yo-yoing once and for all, and how to stop what the fuck am I doing today syndrome. So I'm going to iterate and I'm going to go backwards with this. Obviously, how to stop what the fuck am I doing today is to look at whether or not you are looking for perfect situation. You are being potentially labeling yourself, that's the word I wanted to use, labeling yourself as lazy or idle or incompetent. Okay, I'm getting extreme now with some of the I've look at that because obviously that's going to hold you back because you're using a word or wordage as a barrier or a challenge or an obstacle to obviously take the impetus, take the initiative to set out on your goal or result that you might have been putting off for weeks, days, months, years, of kind of go, what is the worst thing that could have potentially happen? Is that likely to arise? I'll leave that with you. Probably not. But by not taking that initiative, how much closer are you moving to your goal, or how much are you moving further away? That obviously is a choice, because yes, it's scary. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's going to be challenging. Yes, it's going to test you, because of anything that is uncomfortable. Oh, that's what I missed. Yeah, that's reminded me that there is another. Oops, where are you? Did I delete it? Yeah, there is another. I didn't put it on, but there is another slide. And obviously that's a massive mistake, but I apologize. But the last slide that I meant to put on, but it would have been precursor to the accountability, was looking at what 98% of the population do versus the 2%ers. Of obviously the 98% will have these sorts of setbacks of they'll use I won't say stress as an excuse, but they will use stress as a initiative to be able to emotionally eat, for example's sake, or to do things that are potentially viewed by others as destructive, obsessive, compulsive behaviors, because obviously they're deemed as not not correct, or you shouldn't be doing it. Um, and obviously that could be any number of things. That could be drugs, sex, money, alcohol, and obviously if that's steering you from away from what you want to do and the tangibles that you're doing, you're not going to get that result. Be it because you're going to put, if I use the drugs or alcohol and I lump them together, that's going to have an effect on your overall health over the long run. Obviously, the other two will, because obviously you're going to focus on that particular thing more so than whatever goal you have, because that brings you short-term satisfaction. I'm not saying money will do, but obviously it's the root of all evil, people would say, with money, but it's the it's going after it that is the problem, because what is it that you're soul searching? Is it that if you were to have more money, would it make you happier as an individual? And the alcohol is the same, the drugs are the same, the sex is the same thing, because you're trying to validate a quick hit to mask, obviously, what real joy and happiness looks like. Um, would your goal at the end of the day make you joyous and happy? Only you can tell, and only time would tell, because, and we touched upon this a couple of weeks ago about the why. If that why is not strong enough, obviously the result is never going to be achieved, because if you hit a wrong turn when it comes to your motivation, you're going to stop, you're going to quit, because, oh, this is too hard. But if your why is rock solid, and I appreciate Lisa obviously for answering that and telling, it's like her eureka moment of, for her it's probably her grandchildren, and that's pretty heartfelt, that's quite strong. Obviously for the ladies, I will obviously give you a round of applause, because you're a bit more comfortable with your emotions than some of the males in general, because obviously we've been taught to, have a thicker skin, not show true emotion, not to cry, etc. And it's a bit more difficult to us to be vulnerable, because we could feel that we are exploited. When it comes to that, obviously it's not a bad thing to be vulnerable, because then people can relate. So that being said, we've touched upon obviously how to stop what the fuck am I doing today syndrome. The stop the yo-yoing for good is, you need to look a hard look at yourself, in terms of, I'm not saying look in the mirror, I'm looking at what behaviors are you doing, what habits are you doing, why have you not got the awareness to be conscious of the behavior. These are hard things to do, these are very, very difficult, but obviously the simple things have been to take a step and go to not let stress, emotion, habits, and my behaviors take control of obviously actions that I would maybe regret and feel guilty about in the future. That would help you to stop yo-yoing, and that's a pretty simple thing to be able to implement. I'm not saying to do anything drastic when it comes to nutritional exercise and training. I'm just saying to look at your particular lifestyle that you do right now, and to be scrutinize it, not to the 100th degree, but to look at it as what could I do better. I'm not saying to go perfect, but what could I do better right now? So like 1% from today, tomorrow. That could be your action point. And obviously I know that you've listened to it. This, if you put that, obviously the predict and plan despite stress, and I probably preach this time and time again, is I probably brought up on the 4 Ps. Piss poor performance, piss poor planning, results in piss poor performance. And the military's got 5, but I can't remember what the 5th one is. But you're able to instill all these things despite stress. So, have you got 5 minutes spare in your day? Have you got 3 minutes spare in your day? Have you got 1 minute spare in your day? To be able to stop, take a breath, and reset. And this is going to be applied to, it's mindset hack, but it's going to be applied to your nutrition. This is going to be applied to your training. To look at the grand scheme of things, to look at the bigger picture, to look at, you can't see the map today, but looking at it from that perspective as a globe as opposed to a country. So that being said, obviously I will catch up with any questions that people have in the comments. I do appreciate, obviously we've changed the day, and for the Americans and Canadians, yesterday was Labor Day, so some people might be still off the grid. So without further ado, Tuesday will be the new day, same time, and obviously keep your questions coming in. If you don't feel comfortable to share your action point in the group, I implore you to send me it, at least, because then you can kind of go, you've said it to somebody else, and whether or not it's realistic or not, obviously it's another set of eyes to kind of go, okay, this goal is 100% achievable. Maybe you could stretch yourself a little bit more. What was a little bit hesitant? Obviously, if you do it on the group, obviously that's lots. That's cojones. That's obviously going to be even more powerful because you're going to get the support from everybody else. That's a good goal. Now I can share. And obviously, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to come off, and I'm going to go first. And if you've got any questions in terms of like my action points, or why are they so structured and disciplined to T, obviously by all means message me privately or comment in that feed. So have a wonderful Tuesday, or have a wonderful day whenever you're watching this. If you've got any questions, obviously put them in the comments, as I said, or if you feel a little bit more touchy subject, get in touch. Alright then, speak to you all soon. See you next week. All the best and take care.